Hey everyone, Sycra here, and today I'm joined by my wife.
Hey everyone, Fadia here, and today one of us thought this was a good idea.
Yeah, it was me. I don't know, I thought maybe it would be good to have two voices, because otherwise it's just me. And anyway, I'm doing some figure drawing here in pen, and I figured okay, so maybe the idea of the second voice isn't just because I don't have to talk as much, although that is a reason. It's also because I figure maybe I'm doing stuff that, people would have questions about, but I wouldn't know that would be something to...
Yeah, you need somebody to figure it out for you.
Yeah, I need someone with the perspective of an outsider.
Yeah. Well, I see you're using the pen pretty much like a pencil, and I've seen you do this a lot lately.
What do you mean?
Like your initial thing, it's like, okay, you're doing this in pen, but the initial sketch looks like it's done in pencil. Like your lines are very...
Yeah, because when I start with pencil, I have to have a very light touch. So when I'm doing it in pen, I had to figure out how to get a light touch, and the way I figured out how to do that was just holding the pen further back. Like you can see on the pen, there's like a black area, like a rubberized grip thing, and I'm not really touching that too much. And now I am, but when I start out and I want to do those light lines, if you hold the pen further back, you get lighter lines because you can't grip it as hard near the tip. I don't know, it's probably physics.
Yeah, it is. So why did you want to do this? Like, how did you figure this out? How did you...
the pen thing?
Yeah, like, why do this in pen? Why not just go to pencil?
Because I am comfortable in pen, and I figure, I don't know, I have it in the back of my mind whenever I'm doing videos like this. I always hear people criticizing it in a way, before they do. I hear oh, you should use pencil. Oh, you're doing this wrong. Oh, you should use newsprint and charcoal and stuff. And most everything they've said, or they might say because they're imaginary and they're just mental problems, but it's a case of I've already done it. So I really like using newsprint and Prismacolors, especially certain, there's a red I really like. But anyway, it's after using a bunch of tools, what I've realized is I work best when I'm using tools that I like. I used a brush pen in the last video I did, and it was fine, but I don't know, it wasn't what I liked using, even though I thought the effect was okay. And I think in the end, you've just got to use what's comfortable for you.
No, I think that what you're using really is not the tool here, but it's the state of mind, it's your energy that is associated with using a tool that you prefer. Maybe your context is associated very positively with this pen, or just...
I think so, but it's also a case of I like drawing sharp things, and having a piece of metal at the end of the tool seems to somehow connect in a way. As opposed to a felt tip.
If the felt tip is the choice, sure, I guess.
I don't know, with a brush though, a water brush, it doesn't bother me in the same way. Maybe it's the way it flows, the glide of it.
Yeah.
I don't like friction too much.
Do you find yourself drawing differently depending on the tools you're drawing with?
Yeah, definitely. It's... even with the brush pen or with pencil, if I was using a pencil right now, I would have a completely different grip. I would flip the way I hold the pencil. So I don't know, it would be more horizontal. You can't see what I'm doing, but anyway, I have videos. I have a beginner's playlist. So anyone who's watching my videos for the first time, or maybe you've only seen a few, and you're not sure about things like how I hold the pencil, my advice to beginners, should I go to school or whatever, I created a beginner playlist, and I will link to that in the description, and that's how you can find out most of the things that are important, I think, for a beginner to know.
No, this isn't really trivia either. It's oh yeah, how do you hold a pencil? It's not just a curiosity. I feel it's quite important, and it's not stressed enough because it's not cool. Oh, how you hold a pencil? Who wants to do that?
Yeah, and I think it's a case of like, it's something that's not glamorous or cool to be learning, but at the same time, people might neglect learning that. Like, oh, I don't want to hold my pencil that way because it feels uncomfortable. It's like, well, yeah, in the beginning it will, but you get used to it. But the thing is also, I don't know, it's like you don't want to learn the technique, but then you admire the work of others and you don't know how they do it, but they're using that technique that you don't want to learn. Like, I don't know. Sometimes people will say, oh, your lines are really cool. I could never draw like that and stuff. It's like, well, if you used your arm, you probably could.
Yeah. There's a reason people like the Karate Kid go into seclusion when they learn their one punch thing and their basic techniques. And
that's not a Karate Kid. That's, what's his face? The Art of Learning guy.
But they all do this. They all go into seclusion.
But he had Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, he did. And he had his guy that you should probably tell them what we're talking about.
The Karate Kid movie? I don't know. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it, I guess.
And the Art of Learning thing.
Oh, the Art of Learning, yeah. The Art of Learning is a book by Josh Waitzkin. I've mentioned it before. If you just search up The Art of Learning on Amazon or whatever, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. It's a very good book. I highly recommend it. A lot of what I find is essential information in art has, on the surface, nothing to do with art, and it has more to do with psychology or philosophy. And it gets harder and harder to make videos, actually. Like, the easier time for me when I was making videos was in the early stages, because it felt like, okay, I've always had this idea that I want to teach the younger me so that the younger me wouldn't have to suffer to gain as much knowledge as I have had to suffer through. Anyway, so in the beginning it was like, okay, I figured out how to draw a nose, I figured out how to draw an eye, so make how to draw an eye tutorial, how to draw a nose tutorial, how to draw, it was very specific, almost like you go through each body part. But as I've progressed and I've improved, at least I think I've improved. No, I have improved. You may not agree, but in my view, I have. It's a case of thinking more about, well, all I needed to do was draw a lot, and most of the things that were stopping me from drawing had nothing to do with, oh, you don't know how to draw an eye. Maybe that helped to learn how to do that. But most of it is just like, no, I don't draw a lot because I think I suck, because I'm afraid of failure, because I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what to draw. And all these questions seem to be answered by psychology. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, the things that are stopping you from drawing are quite a different category from the things that are helping you when you're drawing, because they're already building on the premise that you're drawing, you're improving, it's all a positive momentum. But when you have things like inertia and motivational issues and stuff, you have to deal with those, and those tend to have nothing to do with art. Those tend to have to, connect to your development and your history and things that you haven't solved, things that you haven't confronted. It's like, why am I not motivated to do 2 hours of drawing each day? And that's a problem that has nothing to do with whether you're figure drawing. It's like, why am I in this in the first place?
Yeah. And I think when you know why you want to do something, the rest is actually not that hard. For instance, if someone just wanted to draw birds, that's just what they want to do. I just want to draw birds. It's like, okay, so if that's really what you want to do, then what do you do next? Well, I don't know. I guess I should learn about birds. I should learn the different types of birds. Yep. Should learn bird anatomy. Yep. I want to draw a bird on a branch. Okay. So I guess that requires knowing how perspective works. Yep. Like, it's pretty, I'm not saying it's, like, I don't want to trivialize how difficult it is to learn things, because it can be very difficult at times. But it's more that these aren't nearly the hardest questions to solve. I think it's much harder to for instance, not draw for yourself. Maybe you did have an idea of why you wanted to draw, and then you practiced for many years, and you ended up finding work, and you ended up drawing for other people, and then eventually you forgot why you wanted to draw in the first place, and then you're asking, what do I do with my life? I mean, that's kind of a hard question compared to, oh yeah, so I should learn how birds work because I like drawing birds.
Yeah, you have to answer some questions that go beyond where do I find this information and stuff. And like all the information that you need to get is within yourself, and you need to keep confronting it and keep asking yourself, because it's not going to be an answer that you're going to find and 2 days off and then back to work and I have the answer now.
And I noticed a lot of people who do teach, like there's this guy who was teaching fitness or something. His name is Elliot Hulse, and after a while he went from like tips on how to do exercises to just philosophy. Like it almost turned into just this different channel entirely. It's like, why would you stop doing just basics? And the thing is, once you get beyond a certain point, you realize that, everything that I needed to work on at first to get better, the first thing you have to work on is yourself, not your technique necessarily. But who are you? What do you want in life? Where are you going with this? And I see so many, like recently, I keep being confronted with a few painful truths, and they concern a lot of things, but one of the big things is just this industry that we want to get in. And I never really spent a lot of time in the industry. I did, I suppose, work in it for a short time, technically, but never for like a gigantic studio. But what was surprising to me, because I always thought, that would be cool, or I should, I guess. Just seeing people who had jobs that I thought were the cool jobs, and then going behind the scenes and actually talking to these people and finding out that they don't really like that work. And it's in studios that are like, wow, those are cool studios. They have a lot of facilities. You get paid well and stuff. And it's like, but these people don't seem to be following their passion. And in some cases, they seem to be losing themselves. And I don't know, it struck me as odd because it's like they were trying to do what I'm doing now, or they are trying to do what I've already done. But all I could think of is like how cool what they were doing is. And I don't know, it's really surprising to me how many stories I'm hearing of like people in art jobs who are just not too happy with their jobs. And I don't know, I was seeing a few tiers, and tiers, T-I-E-R-S, not tears as in T-E-A-R.
Well, that too.
Yeah, actually, that's true. I saw a lot of tears. But of problems, like there were the industry problems of people who are very good artists, and then they were in studios that seem to be really good. And I guess there are people who are okay with this and who don't mind, but I heard a lot from, or at least I've been hearing a lot recently about people who they're not really happy in the dream job, or the job you would think is the dream job. And then the next tier seems to be people who they're good, but they're not like super good. Like I would say I'm around this level, like a mid-level artist, and you can't really get in the huge studio dream job yet. And so you're chasing, or at least I used to do this, chasing more, mid-tier jobs, but they tend to pay really badly. Like I'm talking about, it's not odd to get paid $100 for a job that takes you 2 weeks to do. And let that sink in. Like that's not weird. That's kind of normal at the middle, seem like, because mid to low tier, I suppose. I guess middle tier would be more work in the industry, but you're not like the concept artist guy. You're more like, I'm an animator, or I'm doing rigging, or I'm doing roto jobs, or jobs that are in the industry but aren't necessarily nice in a way. And those people seem to tell me, I don't draw much and I should draw more. And that seems to be the recurring theme. And then below that is like, no, I'm not good enough to, for instance, just do an awesome piece in a day and get $100 a day. Because if you're getting $100 a day, fine, that's fine. You can live off that. But if you're getting $100 a week or every 2 weeks, that becomes very difficult. And those jobs are very hard. And those also seem to correspond to like DeviantArt commissions, where you're getting maybe $5 for work that took you a couple of hours. It's like, that's not even close to minimum wage, at least in North America. And then the lowest tier to me are jobs that are from people who are teaching art, but they never were good enough to pursue it professionally, so they ended up being teachers. And what I notice about this level is there are some people who are nice, and some people who are even, they had professional jobs, but then they just weren't feeling passionate anymore, and so they decided to go teach. There's those, but those seem to be the rare exceptions to the rule. It seems like what I hear more of are teachers that sort of are very sure of themselves. They say things like, you must do this. For instance, I could imagine a lot of those teachers saying, you cannot draw with a pen. That's wrong. You should be drawing bigger. You should be using charcoal. And they're the ones that tend to also be a bit bitter and maybe not the best for advice. So I don't know. Trying to get to the bottom of this, like, how do I give good advice to people if that person says, I want to get a job in the industry, and then it's like, what do I say? Because I don't know, I'm stuck in this. So I'm thinking like, well, I should just teach technique and not really comment too much on what's behind like the realities of the job. But what do you think?
I don't know. I think that a lot of teachers end up teaching as a last resort job. And I think as a student, it's not really good to be on the receiving end of that type of education, because it's very biased. It's very, I don't know. I'm not, like, them living vicariously through their students would be a good option. But most of the time it's just, you can't do this because I tried and I failed and I'm telling you it can't be done. And at that age, it's very toxic, I feel. But at the same time, you're not just a victim as a student. You shouldn't let them get away with just giving you information without asking for explanations, because it's good for them and it's good for you to be challenged. It's like, you can't draw with a pen. Why? What's the purpose of this? But the problem is with a lot of teachers that I've seen, they end up taking it personally when you ask for clarification. They feel attacked. It's like, because I say so, because I say, you have a problem as a person. Not like the teaching is a byproduct of that. Your bad methods are just a byproduct of your psychological issues. And too many people just get away with entering the education system as, mentors and stuff without any sort of checkup, without any sort of mental credentials. It's just, it goes, you can draw a circle, therefore you can teach people to draw a circle, but you're gonna fuck them over.
Yeah, and there's so much information that's out of date. Like, so recently I was told that some teachers are saying, they're telling their students, you have to use a Mac and not a PC because everyone in the industry uses a Mac, and PCs aren't used, or PCs are used in America but not in Canada. You must use a Mac and you have to go out and buy a $3,000 Mac. And I was like, what is this? Because this thing between Macs and PCs, it's true that I think in the 90s, people were using Macs predominantly because they were more stable, and it's sort of like the graphic design industry was doing that. They were all relying on Macs much more. But now I don't see that. I mean, Craig Mullins gave up his Mac to use a PC. It's like there are plenty of people using PCs, but even so, like $3,000, really? Like
for a student.
Yeah, for a student. That would buy you a 22 HD Cintiq for $2,000.
Or you could just get
a new
courses.
Computer for $700, and then
atelier courses or
like the amount of instruction you could get from a professional. Like Schoolism is what, 100 something a year, something like that. It's like become extremely inexpensive.
Yeah.
But even if you bought the most expensive tier is $1,000, and
you could get 3.
Yeah, and it's just the amount of insanity for $3,000. Well, in Romania, you could live for a year, no problem, food, everything covered.
Yeah, and just practice on your own time and with resources that you can find for free online, which this is one of them. And it's like, think about it from the teacher's standpoint. How far removed would you have to be from the reality and the times to keep reiterating a fact that was true 10 years ago? And
no, 20 years ago.
Or 20 years, even 10 years ago. It's
yeah.
like 10 years ago, you need to be thinking forward, not backwards. You think, it's like, you get an educator who's so stuck in their own time and hasn't really connected with a nowadays reality that is not going to give you good information and is going to mislead you.
Yeah, and like I remember in animation school, there was one of the students wanted to be a concept artist, and she showed this picture of a piece that I know who painted it, and it was painted in 2D, and she showed the teacher, and the teacher looked at it. It's like, oh yeah, that's 3D, and you have to learn 3D to be a concept artist. There's no 2D concept art anymore. And I was like, no, that's in 2D. And they're like, no, it's 3D. And they take it personally when you contradict them because their ego is on the line.
But it's easy. It's easy to hide behind these forceful short statements like, oh yeah, there's no such thing as this, there's no such thing as this, because you have, like, what do you feel? Again, think of it from the teacher's standpoint. They have no power over their own lives. They ended up in a job which they might hate, which might not be their dream job, which might represent the crushing of their dream, and then what do they have? They have control over students. They have force, they have power, and they're gonna use that power to gain something for themselves, feel better about their lives. It's like the need for control is so strong, the less control you have in your own life, the more control you'll want to exert at work and just blow it out of proportion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've also met so that's one end of the side, and then there was another type of teacher who is sort of like, because I had this one teacher who every time I showed him any work by any artist, he felt the need to knock it down immediately. Like, oh yeah, but, and then talk about why it sucks. Because I'd be like, oh, I really like this artist. Oh yeah, but look, they have no control of edges. Their composition's bad and this and that. And it's like, first of all, they can do better than you. And I had to not say that.
But that's what they were afraid of. That's exactly what they're afraid of. That's why they're knocking it down. That's why because somebody who can do better than me. Therefore, you look at this person as a true mentor and not at me. My position is directly threatened.
Oh, yeah.
They have to preemptively strike and just put themselves at a higher position in your mind so that you look up to them. They need to be looked up to.
Mm.
That's their driving force. And it's like, as a student, you, don't challenge them, don't attack them, but make sure that they are not, getting away with giving you poor education. Make sure that they're answering your questions. A lot of people just shut up, and even in my school, it's a lot of people just say nothing in class. They take it at face value, and sometimes
But you're not in high school or anything. You're in...
Even when I was in high
Yes,
school.
but I'm trying to clarify it for the audience.
Oh.
Because you're like, oh yeah, teachers, you're not even in my school.
Well, throughout school, and in all the schools I've seen, it's there's this wave of passivity among students. Oh, just sit there and take notes, and then when exam time comes, just write what you learned and then memorize it. And even in art, it's like, oh yeah, look at this guy and just do what he's doing or what he's saying and not question why. What are you going to end up with? A bunch of copycats. You're not going to find your own style of art. You're not going to find your own path, which is really important.
And I think one of the things that I see a lot, which is also a bit sad, is this idea of, I want to be an artist and I want to make money, and I want that dream so badly that I will not worry about whether I'm actually doing what I like. I will not worry about whether I'm being exploited, whether I'm, working on a project that sucks. It's just like, no, I know this isn't good. Like this really, it's like, no, you gotta play by the rules. Because if you don't, we won't hire you for the next thing or the next thing. And it's like,
it's always this thing held over your head. Always this threat of, no, we're gonna take this away from you. But you don't, like, if you just thought about not having it in the first place, because that's how you start out. You start out having nothing. Everything that you get is a gain from the point that you started. And yet, at some point, you begin to think like, oh, I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose that. And you act like somebody who has stuff to lose. You don't make bold decisions anymore. You don't take charge of your own life.
But it's kind of threatened in a way where people will say, the industry is a small place, everyone's connected. If you piss off this art director, he's friends with all the other art directors, and you will never get hired again.
Of course, they're a cast. They need to stick together. This happens even when you think about, I don't know, lawyers or other, public workers. They will stick together. They will never, like policemen, they will always stick together, even not abiding by the law. They have to, because that's their strength. And it's like, what you can do is you need to be aware and just be careful where you step. Like, okay, fine, you're doing this for the money. Your sole purpose is money. But is this really true? Because if this is really true for somebody who's doing art, okay, fine, I have this skill. I have this dexterity. And it's just dexterity. It's not art. It's design. Kind of like Feng Zhu. At least, like, okay, so from his standpoint, he's not doing art. He's not interested in doing art. Therefore, he can do it. He has the stamina. He has the determination because his motivations are clear to him. It's like, he's in this for the lifestyle, for the money, for the prestige, it's like none of this.
But he also likes that type of work.
Exactly, but he likes it. Exactly, but he is clear on what he likes. He never goes in with like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do art. It's like, he keeps saying it, and he can have the strength to say, I am not doing art. We are not doing art here. If you want to do art, this is not for you. It's like, this needs to be clear to you, whether you want to do art or whether you don't want to do art. Because if it's not clear to you, you will crash. Somewhere along the line, you will crash. You'll have 2 kids and a family and a dog and a house and a mortgage and whatever, and you won't be able to do it anymore. It's just, these are the consequences of not knowing who you are early on. And if you're starting out, and if you're in high school, this is a good time to know yourself.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a thing of, I wonder, how self-aware was I when I needed to be, like in school? Because I'm old now. I'm reaching middle age, and I don't know, I'm still learning stuff about myself, but I don't know, it seems like if you want to do it for the money, it makes a lot more sense to me to do something other than art for the money and then do art for yourself.
If you really want to do art for yourself. If that is, because that's not true for everybody. I feel like a lot of people who are in art are fine with not doing art. And it's like, okay, you want to be in the system. You want to be a part of this machine. It's like, okay, so you go for the jobs that you are able to do. You get and you do the rigging, and you do it's like, that's fine. But know that about yourself and act accordingly. Don't be uninformed, misinformed, misled. That's where the danger lies, I feel.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I should talk about what I'm doing again. I start usually with the heads. I know I'm not supposed to start with the head, and I used to start with big gestures. That's harder with pen. unless you're doing like smaller, just gesture. If you want your drawings to get very sloppy, or at least I don't know a way to do that yet. But I found when I start with the head, it's easier. And this is something you find out like over time, just doing it a lot. You'll find out like, oh yeah, I know this is the way you're supposed to do it, but it actually works better for me to do it this other way. I think that's all perfectly legitimate. I don't know.
Anything that works.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is just do what works for you, but you need to have the experience. And for instance, if you're just starting out though, and you haven't experienced a lot of things, and then you're like, well, I only like to, because when I was starting out, what did I use? Well, I drew with pencil on lined paper, because that's what I had. And sometimes printer paper. So it's like, well, okay, so that is your medium, I guess. Like, oh, and then if I was coloring, I would use colored pencils. And I remember how scared I was about paints. Like I was really intimidated about a brush. It felt like, oh wow, no, I can't do that. That's really hard. I think that's not a good place to make a decision about what you like to use or don't like to use. Also, what you like to use changes over time. Like I didn't like using pen for a very long time. I actually hated it. I really liked pencil. And I did not like pen. I didn't like the permanence. I didn't like the lack of range. I didn't like how it didn't look sketchy enough, it seemed. It seemed you had to be much more precise and much slower.
Yeah, but that wasn't an informed decision on your part back then.
Yeah, so I do think it's important to learn as much as you can, like try as much as you can. And then after a while, you'll start to see patterns. You'll start to see, well, I like this because of this. And sometimes what I would end up doing when I was younger is sort of listen to teachers too much and get kind of convinced into things. Like people would say, oh, charcoal's better. And then I think, because I respected the person who was saying that, I would think like, oh yeah, charcoal's good. Like, for instance, don't run out and just buy the pen I use and then try and be me. Because you don't use the tools I use.
Sometimes, but for different, outcomes.
Yeah.
Because I took your pens.
Yeah, you took my pens, but you took the ones I didn't like. I didn't like those colors anyway.
Yeah, but sometimes the tools are not, you can use the same tools, but in different ways. So, again, so long as you're aware of what you want out of them. Because we want different things. We've used the same Copics differently. We've used the same toned paper differently. We've used the same, we had the markers and we split them almost down the middle. Yeah.
But, I guess the idea is experiment in order to learn what the tools are. And try not to be limited by inexperience in terms of, I don't know, I've never used it. Well, use it. Yeah. Or don't dream about it. Like, one day I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick up paints and use paints. It's like, just...
I'm doing that.
Are you?
With the oil painting. Yeah, I feel like, it would be a waste of materials to start oil painting at this point. Okay, I have a digital medium. Why not do as much as I can with that? And I still stand by that. But, I don't know, for one thing, I thought that was a big point that your Pointy Chin series made. It's like, look at how long this middle phase is going to be. And I thought, I, for one, got a lot out of it just looking at that. It's like, well, I looked at that when you were just doing it without sharing it on YouTube, but I thought this has great value for people who are learning. Like, don't be discouraged by the time it takes, because I feel like this happens a lot. You'll think, you've done a few hundred sketches and you think you're ready. You think this is it.
Or a few thousand. Like, even a thousand drawings is not a lot.
Yeah.
It's really not. And if you think it is, no. Like many, many thousands of drawings.
Yeah, if you count before doing them, it always seems like a lot. And if you count after doing them, when you count the pages and you multiply by the number of drawings, it always seems like a little.
Yeah. Like even on this page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 now drawings. It's like, well, 7 drawings on one page this isn't a lot to do 1,000. Yeah. I don't know the math, but 1,000 divided by 7 is a number. And you take that number and it's not much.
Yeah, if you think about it, and you're not even doing the super quick ones. You're not even doing
It's
the
2 minutes.
seconds.
Like each pose is 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's like you have to have patience. You have to have determination. You need to be filled with determination.
Yeah. So. What?
I don't know.
Oh, the middle path. Yeah, the middle path takes a really long time, but it's also true that I wouldn't say it's good to even look at that. Like, when I say it takes thousands of drawings, actually, I would say don't think about that.
Yeah.
Because it's not useful. It's like, sometimes I'll take a taxi or I'll be in the bus and I see, because I used to have a car and now I'm in Romania and I'm carless. But anyway, I'll see the distance from like point A to point B. Like maybe, oh, that's the coffee shop I know, and oh, there's the subway station. And in the cab, it feels like, oh, that takes a really long time. Oh, I'm really glad I don't have to walk that. That seems like it would take forever. And then it's like, no, wait, I've walked that. It only takes about 30 minutes. It's not that far. But it's the same thing when you haven't experienced something and you're just looking from afar. It might seem way too daunting. Like if you looked at a mountain, it's like, I'm going to climb that mountain. Oh, it's too big. No. It doesn't look possible. But you just have to take one step at a time and it ends up being possible. So yeah, I wouldn't focus on how hard the middle thing is or how long it is, but just keep working on it. But if you are in the middle phase and you're getting discouraged because you think like, wow, this is really taking long, it will. Like, just don't give up, because it does take a really long time. One way or another, it's going to take a while. And I think we're nearing the end. So I want to go ahead and thank Flavia for being with me and helping me get through this long video. I'm going to end with some circles. Poorly done, but whatever. You do it to move my arm. And there's some ellipses which are done a bit better. Usually just fill negative space with circles. And I hope this helped, and thanks for watching.